So Lucy, you recently started discussing menopause and wrote an article about it. What prompted you to do that?
Well, I've been thinking about it for months and months, years probably. And I read an article on the BBC News website one Sunday, I think it was. The 3 female MPs from Northern Ireland did an opinion piece really about their experiences of working whilst being a menopausal woman. And it resonated so much with me. I thought, oh, that's it. I am going to step out of the menopause closet and join the fray.
And you mentioned that one of the bits you mentioned in there was that it's not just a female issue. Can you sort of expand what you mean by that?
Well, I think you probably ought to ask my husband or my children, to be fair, because when a woman is going through the menopause, her moods and everything about her is changing by definition. And I think it can be quite outwardly visible. And this isn't just the hot flushes, the oh my goodness, why is mummy sweating? It's the tiredness or the fatigue or the irritability or the memory loss. It impacts absolutely everybody around you. So your relationship partner, your offspring, your own parents, if you still have involvement with them, they're all impacted by the changes that are happening to you. So it isn't just women, although it affects the woman personally, it affects everybody around them.
Yeah, no, I think it must be about 5 years ago since I first started the kind of whole perimenopause, and at that time there wasn't really any news articles, there wasn't a lot of people talking about it, and I think it's very hard to kind of understand yourself what's going on, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. There is still, I mean, these days I think there is a lot more available online. You have to go looking for it, but in a sense we're lucky that the celebrities that we grew up with are now reaching the same age as us and are being more vocal and outspoken. So I think people like Davina McCall, Meg Matthews, they're quite open, and that has made it a much more accessible subject, but very, very slowly. And so I completely understand that 5 years ago there was probably relatively little material available.
Yeah, and I think, it's interesting. I was reading an article in The Guardian last weekend, and that was talking about the fact that there's quite a few people now using menopause in tribunals for unfair dismissal or sex discrimination. How do you think it's going to affect the legal sort of standing employment law?
I think there's one thing that we haven't been very good at as a nation, and that is menopause policies in employment working context. And I mentioned this in my article, that we have pregnancy and maternity leave policies in pretty much every single employment handbook you put your hands on. But statistically, more women will go through the menopause than will be pregnant. And it makes no sense that we do not have a menopause policy in our office manuals. So I think the cases that you're citing will inspire more, I don't know whether it's regulation, but certainly more policing and making sure that we do have policies and adequate procedures in place for the menopausal woman. I certainly hope so.
Yeah, what kind of things would you hope to see from a, kind of an employment or a workplace starting to get put in place? If somebody came to you asking for advice how to start to implement it, what would you advise them?
I would certainly say you have to consider flexibility of working hours, because certainly this isn't just my own experience, but other women I speak to, is insomnia or fatigue can be 2 very real, quite debilitating symptoms. And the facility to be able to phone up or message the office and say, I had a dreadful night, I will be in at midday, but I won't be leaving until 8 p.m. would be invaluable wherever possible. I do appreciate that not everybody can do that, but where it's possible to be flexible in hours. I'm very lucky. I run a company that revolves around flexible working. Afternoon naps can be an absolute saviour. I know that's not quite as possible in the office. But if people are working from home, the facility for them to be able to say, I've got to go and lie down for an hour, which sounds ridiculous, but as you and I both know, is a very real thing when you're going through it. And I think just general understanding that, you know, when I found my purse in the fridge and the butter in my handbag, I wasn't going completely mad. I just had utter brain fog, and that don't write women of a certain age off for sort of becoming prematurely senile. They're probably just having a foggy 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's obviously something you're really passionate about. And is it something that you're starting to get out and talk more about at different forums, or are you sort of becoming an advocate for it, do you feel?
I haven't taken it public yet, but only because I haven't been asked. I have to say I was really unsure as to whether to bring it to the public, you know, oh, Lucy's menopausal. And then well, on the basis that I don't typically sort of take my personal health issues into the public area. And then I reasoned it to myself that when I was pregnant, everybody knew I was pregnant, not least because I had this massive, great big bump. So I thought, well, since this is the natural course of a woman's physical life, why am I ashamed of it in some sort of way? And I think it's the shame and the sort of stigma that is preventing us from talking about it. So in answer to your question, I haven't taken it fully public, but I would more than happily talk to anybody about it now.
Yeah, so I guess there's, you know, lots of workplace owners or managers are maybe starting to find that their staff are, you know, coming to work and having had the effects of some of the symptoms that are many and varied. So how can they get in touch with you, Lucy?
Oh, well, I would be delighted to talk to anyone, particularly men. And this is why I say it's not a female issue, because there are still an awful lot of male company owners, as well as husbands, boyfriends, partners, who won't necessarily have grasped the full impact of the menopause. But I would invite anyone to email me at lucy.tarrant@cognitivelaw.co.uk or give me a ring on 0333 400 44 99. It is a subject that I will talk passionately about to anyone.